"Oh God, what have I done to deserve this?" she lamented. "I've been with my husband for years, trying to conceive, but I've never been able to. Now, as I near menopause, I remain childless. But look at this poor child, raped once, and now she is pregnant." Welcome to Anansi Web of Tales. Today we bring you a heart-wrenching story of dreams shattered, lives torn apart, and a desperate quest for redemption. This is the story of Kataali, a young girl whose life was overshadowed by the cruel hand of fate. 16-year-old Kataali's world was a tapestry of heartache and tears. Nestled in the northern part of Ghana, her days were shrouded in an unending cloud of despair. Her parents, in their quest for security, had decided she must marry a 60-year-old man. They believed this union would ensure a secure future for their family. But for Kataali, this future was nothing but a bleak, lifeless void. Her dreams of becoming a nurse felt like distant, unattainable stars. "Kataali, you must understand, this is for the family's good," her mother would say, her voice a mixture of stern resolve and misguided hope. Kataali's protests were met with deaf ears, her cries for her dreams drowned in the din of wedding preparations. The house that once echoed with her laughter now resonated with the cold, indifferent sounds of people bustling about, completely oblivious to her silent suffering. Kataali's room became her sanctuary of sorrow. She spent countless hours there, tears streaming down her face, her heart heavy with grief. The walls, once painted with the warmth of her childhood dreams, now seemed to close in on her, suffocating her hopes. The reality of her impending marriage was a cruel shadow that loomed over her, its weight crushing her spirit. "Why won't they listen to me?" she whispered to herself, her voice breaking with despair. Each day the knot of hopelessness tightened within her. Her parents were absorbed in their plans, their excitement a painful contrast to her misery. She felt utterly alone, her pleas lost in the clamor of celebration. As the dreaded day drew near, Kataali's sense of despair deepened. The world outside her window seemed to mirror her inner turmoil. 2 days before the wedding, Kataali knew she had to act. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination as she crept into her parents' room. Her hands trembled as she rifled through their belongings, each rustle of fabric a reminder of the gravity of her actions. Finally, she found it, the money that would buy her freedom. With tears blurring her vision, Kataali clutched the money to her chest. Her decision was made. She would flee this life of imposed misery and chase her dreams, no matter the cost. Her journey was fraught with uncertainty, but the flicker of hope in her heart was a beacon she could not ignore. As she stepped out into the cold, unforgiving night, Kataali's heart was a tumult of emotions. Grief for what she was leaving behind, fear of the unknown, but above all, a desperate, unyielding hope. The road ahead was long and perilous, but for the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of light in her soul. That evening, Kataali left her village, her heart heavy with heartache and despair. The journey to Tamale was shrouded in a haze of tears. From there, she boarded a vehicle heading to Accra, her future uncertain and terrifying. She did not know anyone in Accra, but she felt that running away was the only way to avoid the unwanted marriage. Upon arriving in Accra, Kataali faced many challenges. The city, vast and unfamiliar, loomed over her, its towering buildings and bustling streets amplifying her loneliness. She was alone in a big city, with no friends or family to turn to. The weight of her decision bore down on her, but she was determined to pursue her dream of becoming a nurse. She saw her fellow northerners who were doing Kayayo in Accra markets. In Ghana, Kayayo, plural, Kayayo, refers to a head porter, typically a young woman or girl who carries goods and items for shoppers and traders in markets and commercial areas. The term is derived from two words, kaya, which means load or goods in Hausa, and yo, which means woman in Ga. Kayayo are often migrants from northern Ghana or neighboring countries who move to urban areas like Accra and Kumasi in search of better economic opportunities. Kayayo typically work in large markets, where they can be seen balancing heavy loads on their heads, moving items from one place to another for a fee. This job is physically demanding and often comes with challenges such as inadequate shelter, low pay, and exposure to various risks, including health hazards and exploitation. Despite the difficulties, many young women take up this work to support themselves and their families. The markets were chaotic, filled with the cries of vendors and the endless shuffle of feet. Kataali felt overwhelmed by the noise and the sheer mass of people. Her heart ached with a profound sense of isolation. There was a particular woman called Auntie Kesewaa. Whenever she visited the market, Kataali became her trusted Kayayo to carry her goods. Auntie Kesewaa grew fond of Kataali and appreciated her hard work and respectfulness. Kataali, in turn, cherished the kindness Auntie Kesewaa showed her, especially since she paid her twice the usual charge. Their friendship became a small beacon of light in Kataali's dark world. For over a year, this bond offered Kataali some solace amid her struggles. Yet, even as she found moments of comfort, the pain of her lost dreams and the fear of her uncertain future haunted her every step. The city, with its unending clamor and indifferent crowds, remained a harsh reminder of the life she had left behind and the dreams she was desperately trying to keep alive. One day, Auntie Kesewaa visited the market, and as usual, Kataali carried her goods. Kesewaa's eyes, filled with curiosity and concern, met Kataali's. "Why did you come to Accra?" she asked gently. Kataali, her voice trembling with suppressed tears, explained everything. How she had been forced to run away from her village to avoid marrying an elderly man. Kesewaa listened intently, her face softening with sympathy. "Kataali, would you like to become my house help?" Kesewaa asked. "I can enroll you in secondary school, and if you show good character, even help you get into nursing school." Kataali saw the kindness in Kesewaa's eyes and felt a glimmer of hope. She accepted the offer, seeing it as a lifeline in her sea of despair. Auntie Kesewaa and her husband were a very successful business couple. They had everything: cars, a beautiful house, and frequent trips abroad. Yet, despite their wealth, they faced a grave problem. They had been married for years and had spent a fortune trying to have a child, both physically and spiritually. They even tried assisted reproductive technologies, ART, like intrauterine insemination, IUI, and in vitro fertilization, IVF, but nothing worked. Kataali's presence brought a new dynamic to their home, filling the silent spaces with her quiet determination. As she settled into her new life, the weight of her past still lingered, but she clung to the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, her dreams were not entirely lost. When Kataali told Auntie Kesewaa that she would never see her parents again because of what they did to her, Kesewaa felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Kataali could become the daughter she had always wished for. From then on, Kataali took over all the market errands, taking taxis to fetch the necessary items. The work wasn't difficult for her, as she'd endured far more arduous tasks in the past. Both Kesewaa and her husband, Mr. Oduro, grew to love Kataali dearly. Despite their affection for Kataali, Kesewaa and Mr. Oduro couldn't escape the hurtful whispers that surrounded them. Rumors swirled that they had sacrificed their ability to have children in exchange for their wealth. These falsehoods weighed heavily on their hearts. In Ghana, being barren is often seen as a curse, tarnishing one's dignity and integrity. One fateful day, Kataali was sent to the market as usual. On her way back, the taxi driver took an unfamiliar route, claiming he was avoiding traffic. Unbeknownst to Kataali, he had a sinister plan. He stopped in a remote area and forced her into an unfinished building, threatening to kill her if she resisted or screamed. In the desolate building, he beat and raped Kataali, then fled with the items she had bought. Left alone and terrified, Kataali struggled to find her way back home. After wandering for a while, she encountered a good Samaritan who helped her return to Kesewaa's home. Shaken and broken, Kataali recounted her horrific ordeal to Kesewaa, who was devastated by the news. They immediately reported the crime to the police and took Kataali to the hospital for treatment. The incident left a deep scar on Kataali, but the unwavering support from Kesewaa and Mr. Oduro began to mend her shattered spirit. They vowed to protect her, to be the family she never had, and to help her heal from the trauma that had darkened her young life. Their love and care became a beacon of hope in Kataali's dark world, offering her a chance to rebuild her dreams amidst the ruins of her past. After a month of the incident, Kataali missed her period. The fear gnawed at her, so she confided in Auntie Kesewaa. Kesewaa, deeply concerned, urged her to keep this between them. She hurried to the pharmacy and bought a pregnancy test kit. The results confirmed their worst fears. Kataali was pregnant. Seeing the positive result, Kesewaa rushed to her room and broke down in tears. "Oh God, what have I done to deserve this?" she lamented. "I've been with my husband for years, trying to conceive, but I've never been able to. Now, as I near menopause, I remain childless. But look at this poor child, raped once, and now she is pregnant." Feeling abandoned by fate, Kesewaa struggled with how to handle the situation. Her husband, Mr. Oduro, had a secret he'd kept for years. Each time they visited the doctor, he paid large sums of money to keep it hidden. He suffered from severe grade 3 varicocele, which impaired his sperm production and quality. This condition had led to their infertility, but he had kept it from Kesewaa, fearing her reaction. Kesewaa told Kataali to keep the pregnancy a secret, promising to take care of her and the baby. She then confronted her husband, revealing the pregnancy and her plan to raise Kataali's baby as their own. Initially, Mr. Oduro hesitated. The thought of raising another man's child was daunting. However, he understood the depth of Kesewaa's despair and the potential public humiliation they faced due to their barrenness. They had everything: wealth, status, and influence, but the one thing they desperately wanted, a child, had always eluded them. Seeing no other way to make Kesewaa happy and preserve their dignity, Mr. Oduro reluctantly agreed to the plan. They would use their resources to ensure Kataali's pregnancy remained a secret, providing her with everything she needed. As Kataali's belly grew, Kesewaa and Mr. Oduro made arrangements in secret. They set up a comfortable room for Kataali, ensuring she had the best medical care. Kesewaa's heart was heavy with a mix of sorrow and hope. She prayed silently that this plan would work and that raising Kataali's child would fill the void in their lives. She could hardly believe the turn her life had taken, but when Auntie Kesewaa told her to stay home since she was pregnant, Kataali, trusting and unaware of any malice, agreed. Kesewaa had arranged for a private doctor to attend to Kataali, ensuring her well-being. As Kataali's belly grew, Kesewaa began pretending to be pregnant herself. She informed friends and acquaintances of her supposed pregnancy, her husband complicit in the deception. Kesewaa had purchased a range of fake pregnancy silicone skins, from 3 months to 9 months in size, to maintain the charade. Kataali was well cared for while remaining indoors, with Kesewaa ensuring she took her medication and didn't miss any antenatal appointments. The private doctor, paid handsomely, played his part in the plan. Each Sunday, Kesewaa and Mr. Oduro went to church, giving thanks for what she believed were answered prayers. Their enemies, who had once mocked them, now looked on in shock, silenced by the sight of Kesewaa's growing pregnancy. As her supposed due date approached, Kesewaa told everyone she would give birth abroad to avoid any visitors during her absence. She stayed indoors, preparing for Kataali's baby's arrival. A few months later, Kataali gave birth to a healthy baby boy at home. 2 weeks later, Kesewaa claimed she had also given birth, but had tragically lost the baby at the hospital. She cried bitterly, though her tears were insincere, while Kataali, oblivious to the deception, mourned with her. Kataali never suspected that her baby would be raised by Kesewaa and Mr. Oduro as their own. She continued to trust them, grateful for their support. The household remained wrapped in a web of lies, with the baby's birth bringing a complex mix of joy and sorrow, hope and despair. Kataali's heart remained heavy with the weight of her past and the uncertain future. The once clear dreams of becoming a nurse now seemed distant, but in the new life of her baby boy, she found a glimmer of hope. Yet, the secrets held by Kesewaa and Mr. Oduro cast a shadow over their lives, threatening to unravel their carefully constructed facade. As the days passed, the tension grew, and the fear of their deception being discovered loomed large, adding to the already heavy burden on Kataali's young shoulders. Kesewaa told Kataali that even though she had lost her own child, she would help take care of Kataali's son. Often, Kesewaa would take the baby, dress him up, and take pictures as if she had given birth herself. 2 months after Kataali gave birth, everything seemed to be going according to plan. One day, Kesewaa told Kataali that a driver would come to take her to the hospital for a general checkup. The hospital was far, so Kesewaa would keep the baby until Kataali returned. A 4x4 vehicle with tinted windows arrived at the house to pick up Kataali. As the driver took her farther and farther away from familiar surroundings, Kataali's fear grew. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice trembling. The driver assured her, "Don't worry, we'll be there soon." But Kataali couldn't shake off the discomfort. Memories of her assault haunted her, heightening her anxiety. Eventually they reached a remote and unfamiliar place. The driver told her to get out, claiming they were almost there. As she stepped out, he suddenly grabbed her neck, squeezing tightly as she struggled and gasped for air. Kataali fought desperately, but the driver's grip was relentless. Blood trickled from her nose, her vision blurred, and finally she became lifeless. The driver dumped her body in a nearby bush and sped off, leaving her behind in the desolate wilderness. Back at the house, Kesewaa and Mr. Oduro continued their deceitful lives. The truth of Kataali's fate hidden from the world. Kesewaa cradled the baby, presenting him as her own, a grim testament to the lengths they would go to preserve their facade. The baby, innocent and unaware, grew up in a house built on lies, his mother's tragic end a secret buried deep in the shadows of Kesewaa, and Mr. Oduro's desperate desire for a child. Kataali's son had now become Kesewaa's son. In Kesewaa's eyes, her prayers had been answered, and she and her husband now had a child to call their own. 4 months after Kataali gave birth, Kesewaa announced to her friends and family that she had returned from the USA after giving birth to a baby boy. She had already destroyed all of Kataali's belongings, ensuring there was no trace of her. Since Kataali's parents were unaware of her whereabouts, her disappearance wouldn't raise any suspicions. Kesewaa organized a lavish naming ceremony at their church, celebrating their new son, Oduro Kingsford, named after Mr. Oduro. Kingsford was showered with the best care, growing up in luxury. The doctor who had assisted in their deceit helped them acquire all the necessary documents to claim Kingsford as their own. As Kingsford grew, he became a handsome and intelligent boy, always excelling in his studies. He was pampered and adored, living the life of a privileged child. However, fate had a different plan for Kataali. Though the driver had left her for dead, she hadn't died. After being strangled and thrown into the bush, she lay there unconscious for 2 days. When she finally regained consciousness, she was too weak to call for help. She crawled to a roadside, where she collapsed again. A passerby found her and took her to a hospital. Unfortunately, the Good Samaritan who found Kataali didn't have the means to afford her medical treatment. She was given basic first aid, but the doctor insisted she needed to be transferred to a larger hospital for a thorough examination and surgery. Kataali's injuries had affected her brain, leading the doctor to suspect she was suffering from post-traumatic amnesia, PTA. This condition left her in a state of confusion and memory loss, unable to recall the events that led her to her current situation. In the big hospital, Kataali's condition was critical. The severity of her brain injury meant she could barely remember her past, including the trauma she had endured and the life she had once hoped for. The kind stranger who had brought her to the hospital could do little more than hope for her recovery. As Kataali fought for her life and memory, Kesewaa and Mr. Oduro continued their charade, blissfully unaware that Kataali was still alive. The deception that had brought them a son was built on fragile lies, and the truth lay buried deep within Kataali's shattered mind. Will Kataali ever recover her lost memories and uncover the truth about her child? Can she find the strength to reclaim her life, or will the shadows of her past continue to haunt her? The journey ahead is uncertain, but filled with hope and the potential for redemption. As you eagerly await the second episode of Kataali's story, we invite you to share your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. What do you think the future holds for Kataali? Let us know where you're watching from. We love hearing from our viewers all around the world. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us continue bringing you these powerful tales. Thank you for being part of our community, and stay tuned for more.